Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, flying solo. So, your Golden State Warriors have lost 3 in a row. They dropped their third straight road game to the Miami Heat, this time 116-109. Hey, at least they held the Heat under 120 points. It was a better effort than the Charlotte game, than the Detroit game. And you could clearly see that Miami also definitely wanted this game after having lost to the Warriors just last week, just like 5 days ago or something. And, you know, I'm recording this right after the game. So these are just like completely just off the top of my head thoughts. But this team, I mean, I'm not panicking, and I don't think you or anyone else should either. Yes, this team is not where it needs to be, but again, it's the 8th game of the season, and I'm not saying they don't need to work on anything. I'm not saying like, oh, they'll just flip the switch come game, 72 and then, get hot for 10 games and go into the playoffs. Not at all. But I have faith in that this team will realize and figure out what it needs to work on, and will work on those things. And not just the players and the coaches, but also, the front office, Bob Myers, Mike Dunleavy Jr. You know what I mean? I've had some interesting comments and interactions with folks on YouTube in the comments of the videos that get posted of these episodes, and some really interesting insights, a lot of passionate fans, which I can really appreciate. But let's think about this a little bit, clearly. Let's take like a step back, right? Like, this Warriors team, they're doing a couple things. I think that the fact that the vets, that they're not all 100% in terms of where they need to be by midseason or by the end of the season. Like, we're seeing Draymond play well as of late, more or less. We've seen Poole. I'll count him. He's not so much a vet, but obviously he's in the top 6 of the rotation, playoff tested and everything. So he's had really good games. He had an off game against the Heat. I believe it was just 3 of 10. And then Steph, he had a triple-double. Impressive. And, he looks good. He looks good. He looks like just consistent. And Andrew Wiggins, I said this last week, I said this early on, he just looks really, really confident. He looks like he knows his role. He looks like he knows he's found his niche where he can thrive. It's like he's seen the path to what he can do to help this team win a title. And he's doing that. He's doing that every single game. But they all haven't really done it all on the same night, right? Like, well, then, of course, there's also Clay, who in the Charlotte game clanked a couple big 3-pointers, trying to play a little hero ball. And then in this Heat game, he clanked 2 more 3-pointers in the final minutes when they were down by 3. Again, like, I'm giving Clay some space. I don't necessarily think it's like, oh, eventually he'll just click and he'll all of a sudden turn into 2019 Clay. It's going to be a process, right? So some of the Warriors have played well on given nights, but they haven't all put it together. And that's just part of it, like, I'm not saying just don't worry, don't fret, and it's all like good and everything like that. But that's the situation for the vets. And then you go with the young guys, and I've said I totally believe in all of them, and they've shown their youth, especially Wiseman and Kuminga. But all we want is a little bit progress, and then like maybe expecting some steps backwards, but then making more steps forward. Kuminga, that's an ongoing question, right? He didn't get into this game against Miami, and it's still a question of where he fits in. I said it before, and my buddy Vubang, who's on this show, sometimes said it too. It's like, if Kuminga is just definitely not going to get in the lineup when the Warriors get back home, I would not be surprised after they play the Pelicans, go back to the Bay. I wouldn't be surprised if they sent him to Santa Cruz for a handful of games, like he needs some run. He needs to flex and he needs to feel himself a little bit, you know? So if he's not going to get past James Wiseman, Kevon Looney, JaMychal Green, Andrew Wiggins, then get him some reps. You know, that's just like practical, because before I was like, oh, you know, they don't want to send him down there or Wiseman down to the G League because they want them to experience the big league club and get minutes and just have those reps, etc. But if he's not getting them and it's clear, just send him down there. So we'll see. We'll see about that. But being a basketball fan, being a Warriors fan, it's like you follow all 82 games, and it's like there's high variance right now, right? Because the young guys need to get up to speed, and the vets, they were coasting and they're just trying also to get up to their own speed and in their own way. So there's going to be a lot of high variance, and eventually I'm predicting and I'm hoping that that variance will come down. You know what I mean? And that's when things will be like, okay, this is what this team is. This is what they're starting to look like. And we kind of get it. So, you know, it's funny because last season, right, it wasn't all good all the time. There was a lot of like hand wringing and everything, right? The easy schedule, 18-2, great. Steph breaks the record of most career 3-pointers, breaks Ray Allen's record. Great. And then he goes into a really, really bad shooting slump. Ends up having one of the worst shooting years of his career since like his first couple of years. Draymond goes out with a back/calf injury that keeps him out for like 3.5 months. In that span, Klay Thompson comes back, and he, you know, doesn't look like the Klay that we exactly remember. And then at the same time, Jordan Poole goes back to the bench, and he kind of turns into a pumpkin for a while. At the same time, Andrew Wiggins makes the All-Star team, but then he goes off the deep end in terms of his overall shooting, and then his free throw percentage just drops to like 62 for a while. And then when Draymond comes back, Steph, Klay, Draymond play 11 minutes together, and then Steph gets hurt when Marcus Smart rolls on his ankle. And then they get healthy for playoffs. The rest is history. And there were a lot of tough times in playoffs. So my point being, you all know that that's how the season went last year. But like, I mean, it's a marathon, right? That's what people say. And that's what it is, right? It's like you're pacing, you're figuring stuff out, and then you make that stretch run at the end. It's not fun to watch the Warriors lose. I mean, this game was a lot more fun than the Detroit and Charlotte games, because those games, they just seem to have, you know, no effort. The Warriors had no effort in those games. They had nothing. But in this one, you saw that they were clearly competing, and they were playing good enough to win. They just, you know, Miami made enough plays. There were some foul calls that didn't go the Warriors' way. Shots didn't fall, etc. So that's that. But with this team, it's almost like if you can't handle, and I'm not like pointing at anyone in particular, I'm just talking like universally, the general you, if you can't handle the ups and downs and like the gut wrenching like losses, and like are just living and dying with this team game to game, then, you know, this isn't the KD Warriors team. This isn't even the 2014 through 2016 team where they had a lot of vets. This is a very, very like up and down team right now, just because of like their vets who are playing a certain way and their young guys who are playing a certain way. And we're waiting for them to kind of just figure it out and come together. Again, it takes time. And I believe that. So if it's too tough and it's too gut wrenching, it's almost like, yo, hey, maybe if I didn't do a game to game podcast, then maybe I would just take some of my own advice and be like, you know what? I'm going to come back and check in a month, in 2 months, and see how things are. Because I know it's going to be kind of ugly for a while. It's not going to be a very pretty brand of basketball. It might happen sooner than later, but right now it's kind of meh. You want to see effort, and you want to see signs that they're getting there. And I see those signs. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, so tip off the season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings up to 100% with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a stepped up same game parlay today. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on the NBA. Obviously, I ride or die with your Golden State Warriors. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Wiseman had a decent game. He only played 9 minutes. He was 2 for 4, 1 for 2 from the line, 1 block, 3 fouls, 5 points. So not a fantastic stat line, but he looked better with the starters than he had in the Charlotte and Detroit games. He was looking good with the starters before that when they were still at home, but he dipped and now he's back. So will he be just as good, more dependable against the Magic? Maybe, maybe not. Against the Pelicans? Maybe, maybe not. When he comes home, all I'm saying is like he's slowly but surely getting better. And if you want immediate results, then maybe, this is not the team to watch right now. Like me personally, I watch this team because I like seeing it evolve. I like these players. I believe in these players, and seeing them kind of like organically become something. That's what's interesting to me. And getting to, I've said, recently 20 games in, see how they are, and here's the other thing too, and no guarantees, but it's like you're evaluating everybody. You're trying out different lineups. There's lineups we've seen that work, lineups that don't work. There's lineups that work like kind of yes, kind of no. So they're evaluating everybody. And then, there's always, always, always the option to make a trade deadline, see who's out in the buyout market, right? Things like that. Again, nobody's guaranteed to be there that's going to fix everything, but let's see where they get to that point. With this team, because of the high variance game to game, it's almost like to check in monthly. Okay, take the temperature of the team. How do they look by the end of November? How do they look by the end of December, January, March, etc. Skip February, but you know what I mean. And then judge it by that, because living and dying like we do game to game is it's an adventure. So you kind of have to accept who the Warriors are right now and embrace that and ride that roller coaster. To be honest, they could go on a 5-game winning streak. They could go on a 10-game winning streak. They could also split the next 2 games, right? Right now, they are 0-3 on this road trip. I said before they got on the road, out of 5 games, you want to come back 3-2. That's not going to happen. You want to come back 2-3. Great. Hopefully. If that's the case, it's not the end of the world. The sky is not falling. It's not. So, the hand wringing, I get. The irrationality of like just throwing it all to the wind, I just don't. You know what I mean? Like, I've been a fan for decades, many decades, and this is a great opportunity. And you just kind of have to let it play out and trust that the Warriors front office coaching staff will adjust as time goes. They're not just going to be like, okay, let's just like put our heads in the ground and keep doing the same things that we're doing. No, they're too smart for that. So they have made mistakes before, and I'm not saying that they won't, but this is part of how it works. If you want a world beater team that's going to win 73 games, or a world beater team that has like the greatest starting lineup of all time with Kevin Durant, like this is not that team. I think that being a fan, you have to appreciate like the journey of each season. And with this one in particular, it's really, really unique, right? Those first couple of teams that made the finals, they were very veteran heavy. They had guys in their second unit who had been starters elsewhere, and then the KD years were just such a strange aberration, having so much like just pure Hall of Fame talent and firepower. And then last season, it was a very, very special blend of guys. And now this is a very unique one as well. You have all this, top heavy veteran experience. And then a lot of just pure talent. So is that going to change during the course of the season? Yeah, I think so. I mean, think about the Warriors being last season, and then when they got to March, right? When Steph went out, people were giving the Warriors very little chance. They had a lot of doubts. I was like messaging with fans and other people who listen to the show about that. And I was like, just get them healthy for the playoffs and we should be good to go. And it worked. It worked out. You know, there's different requirements for this season because it's a different roster. But again, things need to get fixed, right? But like, don't have a heart attack over any of this stuff because I don't want to say it's going to be just fine, but have faith and watch this team slowly evolve. If they look exactly like this come the Christmas Day game against the Grizzlies and they just get, smacked around the court, then, like that's a whole different issue. But right now it's like, let's look at the progress. Let's look at every individual person, like I won't go through everyone, but like Poole, he looks good this season, had a down game against the Heat. Wiggins looks really good this season, had a couple down games against Charlotte and Detroit. Clay, need to figure that stuff out. Draymond looks like he's there. Steph looks solid. Moody, he looks like he's dependable now, and he'll be even better as the season goes. He'll make fewer mistakes. And Wiseman, he's having his ups and downs, but they're finding ways. The thing about Wiseman is like he has so much promise, and we all want that. But as I said throughout the offseason and the preseason, and admittedly, sometimes I get ahead of myself, but like what the Warriors need from him are just the simple things: be big, rebound, defend the basket, be there as a lob threat, hit the occasional floater, pick and roll, whatever, slip a screen, that stuff. He needs to work on a lot of those things. He needs to work on the rebounding. I talked about it when he played against Isaiah Stewart, his old nemesis. He used to, Isaiah Stewart really, really comes after James Wiseman. And James Wiseman needs to figure out how to come after Isaiah Stewart. I hope, I don't know when the Pistons come to Chase Center, but I hope down the road, if that's a ways away, that by then Wiseman is like, okay, I'm good. I'm confident and strong and like, my knee and all this stuff. I'm going to come after Isaiah Stewart. That's what I would love to see next time around. To me, Isaiah Stewart is kind of a barometer for Wiseman in a weird way. And he'll continue to be that until like I see him really, really just own that matchup, because he can. He has all the talent in the world to do it. It's just a question of like, can he get to where he needs to be and play as physically as he needs to push dudes like that around. JaMychal Green, he is obviously different from Otto Porter Jr. He's more of like a 4-5, whereas Otto Porter Jr. is more of a 4-3 and has more ball skills, more passing skills, etc. But again, trying to find places where JaMychal Green fits in. And as I've said before, I feel like Dante DiVincenzo is like a huge missing piece, plain and simple. Imagine inserting him in there instead of Moses Moody, and then bringing Moody in other spots, maybe in as a small forward and 3 spot for Wiggins or something, or having him come in later, or having him play with DiVincenzo and Poole sit. There's other combinations, and what he gives is something that the Warriors are missing right now. Ty Jerome is doing decently. He's hitting big shots. He looks confident. I like that dude right now. I know he has a really, really like limited ceiling and everything, but DiVincenzo will give the Warriors something. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Warriors, if you had the playoff start tomorrow, would just blow through the competition. Not saying that at all. There are concerns, right? People have pointed out to me, the Warriors ranking in defense and all that jazz, but like, it's a long season, right? It's a very, very, like, you take this set of Warriors players and they're, like I said, they're totally different, right? You have vets who are coasting, and maybe in the past when they coasted, they had a more veteran, dependable bench who wouldn't cough up leads, who wouldn't screw things up. So it would kind of cover their tails a little bit, right? And the young guys, they're finding out how tough it is to go in, day out, night out, right? This is James Wiseman's first road trip in front of fans. And that may not seem like a lot, but, he's been gone for a long time. He didn't play in college. He played 3 games. One of those games was against like a legit team. And then after that, it was empty stadiums. So that's part of like his kind of growth and process and everything like that. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that James Wiseman is like the second coming of Joel Embiid. I'm not saying that he's the second coming of David Robinson. I'm saying I want to see what he brings over the next couple weeks, over the next couple months. I don't care if the Warriors go on a 3-game losing streak. And it's not like it doesn't mean anything, but I want to see progress individually and as a team. I don't think they'll keep going on these long losing streaks. I just don't. But we'll see. We'll see. I keep talking about game 20. Let's see where they are at game 20. If I'm drastically wrong, then I'll make a point to mention it. But right now, it's just like, this is your Golden State Warriors team. It's high variance right now, a lot of ups and downs. So, take your blood pressure medication, because it's going to be at times exhilarating, and it's going to be times really, really aggravating and ugly, and you'll just want to just scratch your head and turn off the TV or something. But but always tune into this podcast. All right. That is another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Patrick E. Pino or at Oakland Warriors. Check out our YouTube channel where you can watch this episode, youtube.com/Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com, and be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by National Film Society and is a part of the Basketball Podcast Network. And if you're so inclined, please do leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to leave us a nice review saying good stuff about the show on Apple Podcasts, that would be hugely, hugely appreciated, and it would be very, very helpful. Thanks. That's it. Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.